गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुसाक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। नमामि गौडपादं च शङ्करं श्रीसुरेश्वरं स्वामिनं सच्चिदानन्दमिन्द्रं तं ज्ञानरूपिणे। ओम ओम ओम। We were discussing the second reply. Now today is Sugama. Okay, I think is today Sugama? Friday, yeah. Sugama, yes. Yesterday was Vedanta Sara. Vedanta Sara or Sugama? I forgot. Just a minute, I'll see and tell you. 8th October was Vedanta Sara. Today is 9th. So today is Sugama. Yeah, I think Sugama is correct. So, Atma is Prasiddhi. For Adhyasa, it is not necessary that a thing should be perceived through sense organs only. It is not necessary that a thing should be perceived through sense organ, or in other words, sense perceived alone can be mistaken. Okay, Sugama, correct. Yes, yes. Sense perceived alone can be mistaken. It's not necessary. It should be evident. What is required is the thing should be evident. Evident means it should be some manner in your consciousness. It should be available in some manner. It should be within your awareness. That's all. Evident means it should be within your awareness. So, need not be sense perceived alone. Some manner it should be available. Okay. So, if some manner it should be available, is Atma within your consciousness or not? Consciousness means myself only, directly. Is it within your awareness or not? Or in other words, is it prasiddha? Is it evident or not? It is evident. Natarhi. So then Purapakshi next asked the evidence or the prasiddhi. Prasiddhi means anubhava siddhi. The prasiddhi or being evident should be through pramana. If not pratyaksha, but some other pramana. He says that also you can't argue. Siddhanti told you can't argue even that. Because if pramana is the only means for prasiddhi, for something to be evident, then what pramana are we using? On the strength of what pramana you accept the existence of pramana? The pramana itself is not established by pramana, isn't it? This is a very interesting argument. This also we discussed. We are just repeating. Pramana, with pramana you come to know all other things. But can pramana be known by pramana? Are we generally using pramana and establishing pramana, and through them you are using it? That means there is something. Like in case of pramana, take the example of pramana. We don't use another means to establish. We see pramana is there and start using it, that's all. We directly use pramana. And we don't question pramana. Do we? We take pramana for granted and then use pramana and then come to establish things, come to know things. But nobody questions the instruments which I am using, the mind I am using, the mental vritti, The vritti of the mind, the thought of the mind which we are using to know things, we never question the mind which is revealing the worldly objects. Is the mind revealing rightly? Nobody would know. There is no way of knowing. Because his mind says. See, you look at something. What is there? Oh, it is a red color, you say. Oh, is it red color? Yes, I have seen it. But how can you be sure about your own perception? Nobody ever questions perception. I am just giving an example. Nobody ever questions perception. We go by perception, take the perception for granted, and your eyes tell that it is a red color. Your eyes report that it is red color, and you take it for granted that it is red color. You argue with another person on the strength of your perception. But somebody may ask, how are you sure that your perception is right? If you ask this question, he'll be shocked. Oh, you mean my perception could be wrong? Yeah, it could be wrong. Then I have no way. I have no way of knowing. Because I have no way of knowing. If perception could be wrong, then I tell you I can't do anything. Because I don't know which one is right, which one is wrong. So that becomes a problem. So we take pramanas for granted. Pratyaksha pramana, anumana pramana, all these pramanas we take for granted, and then through the pramanas we arrive at things. Now here is question. Purvapakshi made a rule that pramana siddham alone is a siddham. Then Siddhanti asked, are pramanas pramana siddham? Oh, then Purvapakshi started thinking, oh really what you say is true. I use pramana and establish, I use pramana and come to cognize other things. But what about by pramana? I don't know. I see that pramanas are there and keep using them, that's all. That's all. But how do you know pramanas? Are pramanas are siddham? Therefore, siddham means proven. Are pramanas themselves proven? But we say nobody thinks like that. That's what I am telling. Now you are escaping. Nobody thinks like that means what? People say when sometimes you argue, oh, nobody thinks like that. That is an argument, as if it is a very thorough argument it can prove. There are many things, wrong things most of the people think. You can't go by the society. Many people think like that. Therefore it becomes right. See, does it become right that everybody thinks like that? Everybody is selfish. Do you think selfishness is good? Everybody is jealous. Everybody is selfish. Everybody means we mean commonly. Okay, there are few very mature people who are spiritually advanced. They transcend. Leave them. There are exceptions. They have consciously transcended. We are talking of common people. Selfishness is common. Fear of death is common. Insecurity is common. Desires are common. Worry, tensions are common. Okay. Asakti, raga, dvesha are common. So you mean they are truths? All this is truth? Yeah, nobody questioned this. Oh, if somebody questioned, then you will also question. If nobody questions you, now I am questioning you. There are Vedantins who question. Now do you accept it? No, you alone question. Everybody should question. But everybody can't question. First you told everybody takes the same thing for granted. Everybody accepts, therefore I accept. If there are some people who don't accept it, then will you reject it? See how people argue. They argue in their own illogical way. Even the arguments are illogical. Don't mean every argument makes you logical. Just because you argue, you don't become logical. We argue, but still illogical. Sometimes we argue, but we are still illogical. Argument doesn't prove your logicalness, logical correctness. People think that one who doesn't use logic, he is wrong. It is something like if a person has committed theft or something, some accusation is there. You call him, hey, come on, tell, have you committed the theft? You think that if he says, I have not committed, he has not committed, he is not thief. If he admits that he has committed theft, therefore he is a thief. We think that admitting is the only proof for his becoming a thief or no thief. His admitting makes him thief. If he doesn't admit, he is not a thief. But it is not true. These days you see them totally ulta. People don't admit. If sometimes they admit only to save a bigger thief, he admits it. This fellow admits. This fellow admits that I have committed only to save a bigger thief, real thief. So a person self-admitting is not the proof. Just because you argue doesn't mean your argument is correct. You have to verify. Then what is the basis? Ultimately Anubhava. Anyway, so here Purvapakshi says evident. Anything should be pramana siddha, then only it is evident. Pramana, evident, proven by pramanas, then only we can accept it as an evident. Then Siddhanti asked, have you proven pramana with pramana? You are taking pramana siddham, proven by pramanas alone is a really existing. Then if that is the case, what about the pramanas themselves? Have you used pramanas to prove the pramana? This again is a problem, because the same pramana cannot prove the same pramana. The pramana cannot prove itself. Then there is no another pramana to prove pramana. Is there a pramana to prove the pramana? What pramana you have got to prove that pramana is true? Isn't it? Your eyes see. For example, I'll give you. Do you have another eyes to say that your eyes are not telling lies? To confirm what eyes say, do you have another eyes within you? You don't have another eyes. You have got only one eyes, one set of eyes. So to verify the eyes, you have no other way. Therefore, pramana doesn't have another pramana to prove its validity. So what pramana reveals is valid. If you say, if what pramana reveals is valid, you say, then what about the validity of the pramana itself? Do you have another pramana to prove the validity of this pramana? One pramana doesn't prove another pramana. Such a thing doesn't exist in life at all. It's not there in nature. There is no one pramana proving another pramana. Nothing, no such thing. One pramana can neither prove nor disprove another pramana. Each pramana is independent. Therefore, another pramana doesn't come to its rescue in proving its validity. Okay. Can the same pramana prove its own validity? It is something riding over your shoulders. People say riding over your shoulders. Example is beautiful. Beautiful. You are riding over your shoulders, which is just impossible. Okay. So therefore, Purvapakshi gives up that idea. He says, yes, I admit. Purvapakshi says that now I admit that pramana siddhi, proving by pramanas, is not the only way. There is something which is without pramanas also directly proven, directly evident. Purvapakshi admits. Yes, Siddhanti says, that's what I am talking. That's what I am talking. Evident is enough. Okay, he says, Syadetat pramana vetirikta vishayakaha evayam prasiddha vyavaharaha nahi swayam aprasiddhani pramanani vishaya prasiddhim sampadayitum alamiti natarhi pramanaihi. Therefore, don't bring the pramanas. Don't bring the pramanas as an evidence, as a proof. Don't bring the pramanas. Don't take the pramana as a criterion for something to exist. Then don't bring it. Then there is a criterion, another criterion other than pramana, that is a direct evidence. Direct evidence is another thing regarding which nobody questions, nobody has a doubt. Direct evidence means what? It is everybody's experience. It is everybody's experience. Nobody doubts, nobody questions it, and there is no need to question. It is self-evident. Okay. It is self-evident. Therefore, anyathapi prasiddher bhavitaiva anujnanat kim chataha ataha idamayatam yad atmanopi pramanairvena prasiddav na kopi doshatankaha iti. Therefore, Atma is also evident. You don't need any other evidence, any other proof to establish Atma. Atma is self-evident. That means it is a self-proven. It is itself a proof, like the light, as I told in my last class. When the day dawns, when the sun rises, the day arrives. How do you know the day has arrived? Do you need any testing, any meter to know that the day has arrived? When the day arrives, it announces itself. It is itself a proof. The day is the proof of itself. Darkness is the proof of itself. Isn't it? Darkness is a self-proof. Light is a self-proof. Is it dark or not? How do you find out? Oh, wait a bit. I've got a torchlight. I'll bring it. We'll find out whether it is dark or not. Whether you will confirm that it is darkness with the help of your light. Can you do that? With the help of a torchlight, can you find out it is darkness? Has anybody discovered a torchlight which can illumine the darkness, like Mula Vidyavadins say? Okay. Has anybody discovered, has a scientist created a torchlight which can illumine the darkness? And with the help of the light, you should be able to see the darkness in the light of torchlight. You should be able to see the darkness. How beautiful darkness is. I'm able to see in the light, bright light. Go to the sun. Let the sun illumine the darkness. Do you find such a thing? No. Therefore, things are self-evident. What is self-evident? You don't need any other proof. Okay? Similarly, so in this thing, nahi kasyachit atma bhavati parokshaha. Atma never become. Now, evidence means proof. A proof is required regarding something which is outside your experience, which is not self-evident. In other words, what is not self-evident alone needs to be proven. What is not self-proven alone needs to be proven. That means there is something obstructing. That obstruction, that is something covering it. The covering has to be removed, then it becomes evident. Okay. For a thing to become evident, only two things. Either it is self-evident or it needs to be evident through pramana. Only two things. One is self-evident, another is evident through pramana. Whole life is only two. Okay. Whole life is only two. Just watch your life. One is self-evident, another is evident through pramanas. Through vritti, antakarana vritti. Through thought you come to know. One is Atma is self-shining and everything else is shining through the thought. Thought which is only a form of the consciousness alone, which is one aspect of consciousness. One aspect of consciousness alone we call them thought. So either you know through the thought or the consciousness itself is directly evident. Self-shining. So Swata Siddha, another is Pramana Siddha. Only two Siddha. There is no third Siddha. Okay. Siddha Purusha. There is no third Siddha, only two Siddhas. Swata Siddha, another is Pramana Siddha. Swata Siddha's name is a beautiful name. You can give a name to somebody. Swata Siddha. Therefore, nahi kasyachid atma bhavati parokshaha. Atma doesn't become paroksha to anybody. Okay. Why? Because it is directly evident. That's all. Why? There is no need. What is away from your consciousness? What is not evident? Then you have to make it evident. Okay. Paroksha means what is not evident, you have to make it evident. So what is not evident, to make it evident, then you need pramana. Okay. Here he says Atma doesn't need pramana because it is something, it is evident without needing a pramana. Without needing a pramana, it is evident. Okay. Without needing a proof, it is proven. Avyavahitatvat, because there is no intervening gap between Atma and yourself. If there is a gap, that gap has to be overcome. That obstruction, something obstruction, some screen or obstruction has to be overcome, then it becomes evident. But there is nothing intervening you and Atma, no obstruction, because it is self-evident. Okay, so avyavahitatvat nahi swarupameva swasya kenachit vyavahitam shakyam kalpayitum. Swarupam means its own rupam, natural. What is self-shining? Like the light and you. When the light is on and light is on, that's all, you know it. If the light is on and yet you don't know, then you say, oh, we have seen the light, you are unable to see. Where are you sitting? You must be in your room. Open your door, you will see. That fellow doesn't know that the sun has risen. And somebody has telephoned to him. Hey, why have you not come? And he says, oh, come. Still the sun has not risen. He is sitting in the room. And he says, he replies to him by phone, hey, you are expecting me to come to the office? The sun has not yet risen. How can I come early morning? He told, where are you? The sun has risen 3 hours ago. It is 9 o'clock now. Oh, 9 o'clock? Sun has risen? How is that? I am not seeing it. I say, where are you? You must have closed all your windows and doors. Isn't it? Sometimes, even if you close your windows, through the windows light will come. If you have a glass windows. But if you have a totally wooden windows, you will be in the darkness alone. Then he will say, open your window, you will see that. So sun doesn't have to rise. Sun is already risen. You only have to open your window. Similarly, if there is such an obstruction, you have to overcome that obstruction, then the sun is already there. You open the door and you open the window and you see the sun directly. Similarly, you don't need anything to open to see the Atma. Atma is self-shining. Nothing can cover the Atma. There are no windows possible, no shutters possible, no screens possible that can cover the Atma. Atma is self-shining. All coverings only to the Anatma. Atma cannot be covered. Therefore, atayevachana pramana is siddhistasya apekshita. Therefore, no pramana is required for the existence, for the proof of Atma. Vyavahita prameya vishayatvat pramananam, just now I told you. Tadevam aparokshatvadeva pratyagatma prasiddhihi. Idu bhashakara vakya. This much is given the explanation to the bhashya sentence. What did bhashakara say? Aparokshatvacha pratyagatma prasiddhe. So one small sentence of bhashakara, how much Swamiji explains, you see them. How much manana has gone into it. What a contemplation. Each sentence, see, the depth and the clarity comes to you only on contemplation. That itself is a good meditation. You require your self-control, sense control. Indriyas have to be controlled, mind has to be controlled, attachment has to be given up, prejudice has to be given up, ego, abhimana has to be given up, selfishness has to be given up. Totally there should be vairagyam from the world, vairagyam from the bhoga, vairagyam from the achievements. Just you want to find the fact as it is. As it is. Okay. So to find out the truth as it is, there should be sense control, mind control, egolessness. That means a purity of the mind. Such a mind is capable of seeing the fact as it is. Mind has to be transparent like mirror. Purity means what? Yathadarsha talaprakhe, Mahabharata says. Shankaracharya quotes this shloka often. When mind is pure, Atma gets reflected. That means you come to see the nature of Atma. How? Like the mirror, when it is pure, your face reflects. Face gets reflected and you see, you have a clear picture of your face. Similarly, mind has to be purified. Vairagyam should be there, sense control, mind control, no attachment, emotional, and no ego also. Such mind, so all these values, amanitvam, madambitvam, ahimsa, kshanti, arjavam, all these adveshta, sarvabhutanam, what are these values? All these values make the mind transfer. All these values make the mind transparent enough to reflect the Atma, because Bahirmukha Atma always associates with the body, mind and desha, bhasha. because the deshabhimana, bhashabhimana, identification with your language, with your area, with your parents, with your profession, with your caste, with your jati, with your varna, with your ashrama, with your sannyasi, and I am grihastha. These identifications should give you purity. In fact, this ashrama dharma is given only to avoid still other immaturities, other weaknesses. Okay? People generally have other identification, other impurities of mind. To remove the other impurities of mind, sannyasa is given. But sannyasa itself should not become another thought, another identification, another abhimana. It should not become another abhimana. To remove other abhimana, sannyasa is given. But if sannyasa becomes another abhimana, to feel proud of it and to contrast with others, then you have to give up even that sannyasa abhimana. Then you require a second sannyasa. Second sannyasa, you need to do sannyasa of this sannyasa. That means then you will become just a natural you, like a mirror, which is a clean, transparent. Cleanliness means what? Transparent. Antakarana shuddhi means what? Purity. Purity means what? Transparent. Like mirror. Means what? The identifications, prejudices, narrow standpoints, limited standpoints, one-sided views, all they should give up. Mind should be so flexible and soft and gentle, and it should be concentrated, pure and gentle, like a reflecting medium, like mirror, which is a reflecting surface. It should be ready to see as it is. When the Shastra points out, it should be able to see. His own personal weaknesses, hurts and guilt and hurt and ambitions and desire. That's why a person should be free from all ambitions and desires. No personal ambitions and desires. If you have any personal ambition and desire, then you have an identity. You become somebody. Your mind will be colored by that ambitions and desires. Why do we want vairagyam? Why do we want sannyasa? Sannyasa means no identification. Isn't it? You take everybody as you. All people, all animals, all living beings, everybody as you, our own people. No prejudice, no particular standpoint, sticking to one particular standpoint, just like a mirror. See, every object has got a color or a form or something. What is the color and form of the mirror? Color and form of the mirror? No, it doesn't have. That's what it means. Color and form, there is no color and form to the mirror. Surface of the mirror. Surface of the mirror is just transparent. Transparent means what? It has no particular color and form and identity. What a beautiful it is. Even the thought of it makes you very pure. This is called Sattvika Guna is. The love which we talk of Ishvara Bhakti, Bhagavad Bhakti, it should make you really purer, very transparent, very selfless. It is very flexible. It is easy to adjust to anything. A transparent is something, it can adjust to any form. It reflects any form. It is not rigid about any particular form. If suppose mirror is like a camera film. Camera film, when you click on, only one picture comes. Second time click, no, it won't allow, already blocked. Second picture, it won't allow. But this another camera called mirror is also a camera. Okay? You can click, photo comes. Only tentative. You go away, another person comes, again clicks, another picture. Each time whoever comes, it clicks. It is like another camera, a flexible camera. Okay? You can take any pictures any number of times, but the picture will stay as long as you are in front of it. Okay? The picture stays as long as you are in front of it. Once you go away, picture also goes away with you. Therefore, this camera is a God-given camera, is not a man-made camera. Mirror is a beautiful water body is a God-made camera. Water is transparent and it reflects any picture instantly. Beautiful picture. But you can't preserve it. That's the only problem. You can't preserve it. You can only directly see. You can't preserve it. Similarly, mind should be like such. Therefore, the identities, because of insecurity, you want to hold on. Identify with money. Identify with society, identify with people, emotional this is called insecurity in life. Psychological insecurity, social insecurity, economic insecurity. These three are really samsara, jiva bhava. A person should be very gentle, and that's why a natural love, a selfless love, liberates you from your insecurities, fears and worries. Person is not afraid of anything, naturally lives, because he has no insecurity, no fear of death, no fear of losing money. Tomorrow what happens? He doesn't own any money. If somebody takes away, it doesn't bother. Who is afraid of thief? Who is afraid that he will lose money? If he thinks that money should be with me, money is mine, then you are afraid that somebody will steal. So if money is not yours, if somebody takes, you have no worry. This is what sannyasis are advised. Say nothing. No possession is a sannyasi's basic dharma. Should not possess money or anything. What is possession? They tell. If that money or any object with you, if you have something with you, if somebody takes away, if you get disturbed, then there is a possession. Test whether you have possessiveness or not. If somebody takes the money, if somebody takes something with you, you should remain as natural as before. Then you have no possessiveness. Aparigraha. Sannyasi's main dharma is aparigraha. If you have something and if somebody takes away, if you worry, oh, he took away, we would say somebody. Sannyasi, somebody gave, we were in Rishikesh, somebody gave him 1 rupee dakshina. In those days, 1 rupee was great. In those days means 30 years ago. 1 rupee was great. So 1 rupee somebody gave dakshina, and somebody took it, and he complained, oh, he took my money, he took my dakshina. We asked him, was it yours? It's mine alone. Then that is a problem. Because if you don't listen to Gandhiji tried to apply to everybody. What Gandhiji told applies to sannyasis definitely. That is, aparigraha applies to sannyasis must follow. But all others don't make it. So, if you feel that you have lost it, then you have possessed it. But there is a way, no possessing. Like you are standing in bus stand, railway station, you sit on the chair, it is not yours. Only you use it, not yours. This is a beautiful thing. Aparigraha means how Grihastha can learn aparigraha. It is given by God. It still belongs to God. Even now the money I have earned belongs to Ishvara. Ishvara has left it here for my use. I am only using it. That's all. It's not mine. Owning is different from using. This distinction, if you can make, you become free. You can use them, but you have no right to own it. If somebody snatches, that's all, it is his. Or it may not be his. Now here is one more thing. The person who snatched illegally, he becomes a thief. He becomes a thief means, here I think here Sukshma Dharma I explain here. If a thief, suppose I give you example, somebody has given money to you or to a sannyasi, and another fellow has snatched. One fellow who snatched, does he become thief or not? He becomes a thief because he picked up, he snatched the money which doesn't legitimately, legally belong to him. He becomes a thief, but sannyasi should not worry because he doesn't own it. The person who snatched might become thief because he becomes a thief for picking it up, for snatching what doesn't belong to him. Okay. But sannyasi doesn't own it. It was given for his usage, for his clothes and food and books or some medicine, only these 3 or 4, that's all. Other than that, he has no right to own. And okay, if he has stolen, then whose is that? Who is the real owner? He can't say I am the real owner. The person who donated, he continues to be the owner. Okay. These days sannyasis also using money. So in those days they were not supposed to touch. Nowadays, people, you ask them food and clothes, you see they give you money and ask them to go and buy your clothes. Or you tell your disciple will cook food for you, will give you money, and your shishya will cook food and give you. So they don't give you ready-made food, they don't give you ready-made clothes, they'll give you money, they don't give you ready-made books if you want, or medicine. These 4 things alone sannyasis use: food, clothes, medicine and books. Okay, these four they don't give you directly. They'll give you money and ask you to buy. Now you got this makes a person little bit grihastha. And if he starts feeling that this money is mine, then definitely he becomes grihastha, no doubt. He becomes only grihastha. But if he says whoever donated, still he is the owner. Still he is the owner until the money is completely spent away. He is the owner. He is the owner. Whoever has donated, he alone is the owner. Okay, until the money is spent away. Okay, this is the thing, a new law people have to understand. If you spend it in a proper way for only this Shastra permitted things alone, for food, clothes, and books and medicine, or probably a transport these days, transport also if you are going. If you use it only for these, only for permitted sannyasa dharma, not for those things which are not permitted to sannyasis. If you use it, then what happens? If the money is used properly, the punyam goes to the person who donated. If the money is given to another sajjana, a good person, if the person uses it properly, the punyam again goes to the donor. No punyam goes to sannyasi, because he has no right to own, no right to donate. He has neither a right to own money. A person who owns alone has a right to donate. Okay, dana yaar ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ? Who can do dana? A person who owns the money alone can do dana. Otherwise, he will be like a banker. Banker only gives somebody's money to somebody. He doesn't own. He doesn't donate. If you go to the bank and stand at the counter and take the money, what do you say? Yes, this bank man is a nice man. He has given me a lot of money. Do you think that he gives you your money? He gives his money to you. He won't give you. Therefore, sannyasi doesn't give you. First thing is he doesn't own. He doesn't accept money. He only keeps it as a your money. Okay, he doesn't own money. He keeps it as a your money. If you want to take back, you have got every freedom to take back because it is yours. So it is there for his usage, not for owning. Okay. Therefore, if the money is given as a dakshina to somebody else, that punya also doesn't come to him because he has no right to own, no right to donate. This is the dharma. So the parigraha that I am the owner, this thought is a mamakara. This mamakara makes the mind impure. Why? Along with mamakara, a dependency comes, a psychological insecurity develops. You see them, whenever you possess a little, an insecurity instantly comes with it. If you don't own, whether you have insecurity or not, how do you know? Psychological insecurity or not. If somebody snatches or somebody abuses the money, takes the money and uses for wrong purpose, do you feel upset? Then you have got insecurity. Then you have got attachment with the money. You have attachment with the money because you think that it is yours. Okay. So the possession should go away. Attachment. Then mind, I'm telling what is purity. Purity means what? If the mind is relaxed without any fear of insecurity, that is the purity of mind. Okay. The purity means identification, bhoga sakti, mamakara sakti, ahankara sakti. Bhoga sakti, a desire for enjoying the worldly things, enjoying the sense objects. Desire for owning, desire to feel emotionally attached, related to. These three, emotional relationship, owning up is ahankara, emotional relationship is a mamakara, and then enjoyment is a this thing. These things make a person insecure, make the mind impure. Then it is not a transparent mind. When mind is free from these three, you can see him, it becomes so light like mirror, transparent like mirror. If such a mind listens to Vedanta, he doesn't know anything, he is not an individual at all, then such a person sees Sakshi, all mind is kalpitam in your Chaitanyam. It becomes instant. It becomes easy. Therefore, person should learn these things. Oh, I think my pages have turned out. Here. Therefore, Atma aparoksha. It is never paroksha because there is no obstruction. If there is an obstruction, you have to overcome the obstruction to be able to see it. Atma is self-shining. That means obstruction is all unshining. What is covering that shining is the impurities of mind. Two things. One is impurities of the mind. Another is chanchalyam of the mind. Mind's habitual distraction. Because we keep on using the mind in a haphazardly, helter-skelter, anywhere we use the mind. So mind gets a habit of getting distracted. Mind gets the habit of chanchalyam. Chanchalyam is a cultivated habit, I tell you. Because of our desires, ambitions, worries and tensions, we use the mind as we like it. Then one is the attachment, bhoga sakti, desires, attachments, one impurity. Another impurity is the habitual distraction of the mind. Mind doesn't stay in one place. It wants variety. Why? Why does the mind want variety? Why does, shall I say, you don't feel hurt, I'm just telling, I'm just giving an example. Why do people feel restless in Corona and tell the people to stay home? You feel restless because mind can't stay in one place, because it wants variety. It wants new enjoyments, new objects. At least TV is doing little job. At least you have got lot of variety. Otherwise they say, even now, you see the cell phone, you want to dial somebody, you want to speak somebody, you dial, instantly says, Corona, stay home, don't go out. Stay home, don't go out. What do you feel when you listen to that announcement of that, what you call, what is that company? Cell phones. They keep on teaching you, don't go, don't go. If you had such an opportunity to tell him, it is easy to tell, you stay at home, you will understand. You stay at home. Because mind wants variety. Variety of experiences. Mind wants a variety of experiences. Mind also wants, just for sake of change. Because mind wants habitually wandering mind. So the habitual wandering nature of mind, wandering habit, addiction of mind to wander, it wants change just for sake of change. It can't have a sustained interest in one thing. This habitual wandering is one defect of the mind. Attachment, bhoga sakti, mamakara asakti, insecurity, abhimana, ahankara, all these are another impurities. These two impurities have to be removed. Then mind becomes transparent. Then the Vedanta Vichara, then mind becomes transparent. Then there is only one obstruction. When you are doing Vedanta Vichara, only one obstruction. Now the mind is pure, but the pure mind itself is the only obstruction. When the Vedanta teaches, even the mind gets dissolved into the Chaitanya Atma. Because mind has become so transparent, it gets easily dissolved. With Vedanta Vichara, it gets easily dissolved. But Vedanta Vichara, if mind doesn't get dissolved means mind is understood as one with Atma, one with Chaitanya Atma, not separate. Mind means whole avastha. Mind means mind means whole waking state, whole waking consciousness. This whole waking consciousness has to be understood as one with consciousness Atma and not separate from Atma. Mind as a mind doesn't exist apart from Atma. This is the Vedantic understanding. In fact, Vedanta teaches you only this much, nothing more. Mind, which means the entire world, entire avastha. Because the entire avastha is a thought, including your individuality. Your individuality, body, mind, sense organ, the world and time and place, everything, entire avastha is nothing but consciousness seen wrongly as a mistake, as a separate. This is adhyasa. So jnana can correct only adhyasa, nothing else. Jnana can reveal what you call as a waking state is nothing but the Atma's pure consciousness. It is not other than Atma. That's all only Vedanta reveals. It corrects the misunderstanding. It corrects adhyasa, that's all. But even that adhyasa to be corrected, mind has to be purer. Otherwise it resists Vedantic teaching, correcting it. Vedanta's teaching, it resists Vedantic teaching, doesn't allow the mind and the world and the deha, indriya, mind, everything becoming Atman, it doesn't allow. It doesn't allow, it keeps on resisting. It wants to retain world as a world. It wants to retain body as a body, mind as a mind, individual as an individual. Individual, body, mind, time, place, world, everything it wants to retain. Why? Because of impurity. Bhoga Sakti. When there is asakti in the world, see, if you love the world, if you have attachment with the world, why do you want to see world as mithya? If you love your something, some object, some cloth or chappal or something, your chappali, your shoes, you love them. If somebody says it is mithya, oh, you get angry. What you love, how can you say it is mithya? So world you want, enjoyments we want, possessiveness we want, emotional attachments we want to see TV. If somebody says TV is mithya, you'll get angry. You keep your Vedanta with you. We don't want your Vedanta. Because you tell my TV to be mithya. So therefore, we want to retain the world as a world. We don't want to see world is an appearance alone. It is a false appearance of Atma itself. It doesn't exist other than Atma. So therefore, this adhyasa alone is corrected. But before adhyasa is corrected, mind has to become pure. Means what? Your relationship and attachment with the worldly things and objects should become light and comfortable. Light. It should not be too deep attachment. Fixed attachment. What you call a secure attachment. All attachments should be light and superficial. Don't own anything, don't possess anything, don't get attached to anything. Take lightly. Take things lightly and move with them. Be relaxed and free. So when you move with them freely, you don't have any particular attachment with any language, any person, any area, any family, any religion, any caste, any body or anything. Even with your own self-identity also, if somebody misunderstands you, you take it lightly. Otherwise, no, you have misunderstood. I am like this, I am not like that. You want to go and assert that I am like this, I am so and so person, I am so. You have studied MSc and somebody without understanding it, oh, he is MA. You get angry, right? I am not MA, I am MSc. He is PhD or he is a doctor. Somebody wrote simple name, hey, call me doctor. Don't write my name. So you are proud of your identity as a doctor or a PhD. If somebody doesn't recognize, you feel upset. That means what? You have got certain identity. That identity want others to recognize it. If unrecognized, so these are all impurities. These are all attachments. All these attachments have to gradually go away. Should go away, should be dropped one by one. It is a matter of growth. It is an inward growth. You can't just think and just remove it like that. It is an inward growth. Gradually, it may take years and years together. Inwardly, mind has to grow. Detachment has to grow inwardly. Okay. Therefore, then mind becomes purer, transparent. Means what? He doesn't have a fixed attachment. Tentatively, he assumes the role and leaves them. Like in drama. He assumes the role just for sake of functioning it. Function is over, drops it. Just he assumes a tentative role. Identify with a language, identify with Karnataka, Kannada language, our family, our tradition, our Shankara Sampradaya, our India. He identifies with India. Not that he really feels. It's only tentative like a drama. He doesn't take it to his heart. They remain superficially just for sake of communication, just for sake of worldly dealings. Inwardly, he doesn't have a strong identification with a language area, Even sannyasa identification also is not, it's just for sake of vyavahara. Okay, if such a person is a purer minded. People think, what is purity? Purity means what? Purity means this identification so strong, person should be free from the identification. How much strong is your identification? Is known when the thing is lost, when the thing changes, how much you are upset. If you are upset, depending upon the degree of your disturbance, how much your attachment can be known. If the thing is lost, you take it lightly, your attachment is less. You take it very lightly. You move ahead, that's all. You don't get stuck there. But you get stuck and worry for a few days and then later you recover. Then it's okay, Bhagavad Ichcha, bidu. That means there was a little attachment, but you could recover easily. Recover fast within few days and few hours. Sometimes few hours, sometimes few 1 or 2 days you recover. Some people take a long time, months, 1 year, 2 years, then they recover. Some people never recover at all. They become angry. Even now they are angry. Even after 10 years they cannot forgive. That means attachment is very deep. Okay. So, purity of the mind means person should be free from these attachments. Such mind, only thing you have to know that Atma is this Antakarana, this world and all this is nothing but the Atma alone is appearing wrongly. Otherwise, there is no world other than the consciousness. So, Vedantic Jnanam comes only the preliminary step of Upasana, Karma, all that is learnt. The individuality has to be diluted. Diluted means you take it lightly. You take very individuality lightly. Don't get upset. Because if you take them lightly, things happen, part of your life. So, such a person is a purer person. He can listen and understand the truth. Therefore, he says, what is obstruction between Atma and you? If the mind is obstruction, mind is only a thought. If the thought is a pure thought, it is easy to remove. If it is an impure thought, impure means a lot of strong identification, then Vedanta Shravana doesn't work. People think that only by listening is enough. Listening is not enough. You have to do a lot of meditations and karma yoga, purifying your mind. Consciously you have to cultivate a purity of the mind. Consciously you have to cultivate. Impulses you have to remove. Consciously you have to cultivate over a period of time. Okay, then only the mind becomes very transparent. Then at that moment, the very mind is a nil. It is nothing but consciousness wrongly thought as mind. Mind is nothing but mind, or the waking state is nothing but pure consciousness wrongly thought as a state. In fact, it is not a state. In its original nature, it is Atma alone. So, Vedanta Jnana corrects misunderstanding. It doesn't give you any other things. People think that by listening alone everything will take place. No, you have to do a lot of japa, puja, meditation, purity. Your interaction with society should be based upon love and compassion and a natural, spontaneous relationship. Relation should not be based upon your ego and frustration and jealousy and vengeance and all. If your relationships are based upon vengeance, then the relations become impure. Then the mind becomes impure. Therefore, person has to be very relaxed. Tentative relationships, just like in drama. Okay. Therefore, Atma is aparoksha. Tadevam aparokshatvadeva pratyagatma prasiddhi. Atma is prasiddha, well known as an aparoksha. Only thing is, it is misunderstood as a waking mind in waking world. All waking world is included in waking state. So the pure Atma, Sakshi Atma, is misunderstood as a waking state and a waking person. Waking person, waking state is a sheer misunderstanding of the pure consciousness. Okay. So Pratyagatma Prasiddhe, Atma is Prasiddha. Na prasiddhyartam tasya vishayatvam apekshitam. Therefore, to know that Atma is Prasiddha, you don't have to objectify it through thought. Okay. Atma need not be objectified your thought, through the thought. Purvapakshi told it has to be objectified. No. You require Atma to be evident, that is enough. Adhyasa is possible. Just evident. Whatever manner it should be evident. So, प्रसिद्धिश्चेत अध्यासे पुष्कलं कारणं तर्हि अपरोक्षत्वात् प्रसिद्धेः संभवत्येव आत्मन्यनात्मध्यासः अनात्मनि च आत्मध्यासः प्रसिद्धेरेवेति. That's all concluded. Oh, after so many days we have concluded this paragraph. Not paragraph, it is a 1.5 pages. Okay. Therefore, Atma is directly aparoksha, pratyagatma, the inner self, directly, just like the sun rising, you know it. Similarly, you are there. The I, self-shining Atma is there. It is misunderstood as a waking person. Person is a misunderstanding of an impersonal consciousness. Okay. Consciousness itself is impersonal. Sakshi. In that there is an individuality. Individuality is a thought, is a misperception of pure consciousness. But the pure consciousness is evident. It is misunderstood as an individual, misunderstood as a world. Appearance of the world, appearance of an individuality, both are the misunderstandings of pure consciousness. But pure consciousness is self-evident. Okay, I think this topic is over. Next paragraph. Adhishtanasya purovasti tattvapi na niyamena apekshate adhyase. Another argument is there. The same point, aparokshatvam, he further clarifies. We'll see. And being perceived by the thought is not required for adhyasa. Being perceived by thought is not required. So because Atma is self-evident. At this point we stopped and we'll continue in the next class. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Harihi Om Tat Sat.